we are back for all of your viewing and or listening pleasure. I'm back with the venerable DM. Venerable. That's the first word they came up with. DM Loki from Loki's Lounge. I forgot to mention this earlier on as well. If you want to find more of Loki's work, you can find him on social medias at Loki's Lounge underscore. Don't forget the underscore at the end there, or you won't be able to find it. And you can find all of the episodes, correct me if I'm wrong here, of Renegades.
This is episode 7 at the moment because I'm just waiting for my producer.
Yep.
Who's watching right now. To get his computer fixed, upload the rest.
Get to work. You heard the man. Nothing like singing the boot in live on air.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you can find up to episode 7 of the always wonderful Renegades Rouges and Runaways with DM Loki and his crew on YouTube. I'll read that out. I think that is www.youtube.com/@Loki's Lounge. I will chuck a link for that as well in the chat right now. Boom source. There you go. Don't go there now. You don't want to miss this episode. But once save that link for when we're done here. Go check that out.
You just want to listen to the sultry sound of my voice.
That's right. Yeah. If you know we finished tonight's episode and you want more, and I don't blame you. I go back and watch every 7 episode like at least once a fortnight. So I would highly recommend it. There's some fantastic ups and downs, highs and lows, as there is in every single role-playing game. I don't know what I'm talking about. Just go to YouTube and watch them. You won't regret it.
Absolutely.
Trust me.
And Mod does point out I ran a one-shot 4-crit and miss as well on, I believe it was, whatever was before the shipwreck one with Mark.
Forces of Nature.
That's it, Forces of Nature. Thank you very much, sir.
I don't know if that one's up on YouTube because there was a little while there where I couldn't edit and post them up, so it might not be there. But that you make a good point because you're still a part of that game, aren't you?
I left when I found out about the answer and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Like you can only do so much. You gotta focus on on some things sometimes, and you know I know full well what that's like. Sometimes you just have to step out of certain games. It's a fact of life.
That's it.
What can you do? But it's definitely worth checking out if you can find any of those VODs floating about. Make sure you check them out. They're amazing. Loki is as good a player as he is a DM. So, and just before we went for the break, we had a brief conversation, or I'll let you guys know that we had recently started a new fundraiser, and you know what? I'm gonna let you have a chat about that. You want to tell the people, what that's about, what we're raising funds for, and what our goal is?
Absolutely. So we're looking at creating a actual gameplay book of Ungalat, which is where Renegades, Rogues, and Runaways is set. So it will have lore of the continents. It will have species that I created before they were released by Wizards by the Coast. So I've got the I have a fox type person in there that has different specs. I have a couple of other spells. I have my own unique species as well that Vimors, Aurora could tell you about, that is a very scary purple skin species,
Ooh.
created out of magic itself. Spells. I've created some spells for my world, and obviously all of the background monsters. So obviously, being an Australian, living in Australia, I've got yowies, I've got bunyips, I've got all types of Australian history, or mythology to be more exact, woven into my campaign. So recently, just this the week before this one just gone, the group took on a yowie.
I'm gonna have to stop you right there.
Yeah.
If there is not at least a 10-page spread about the Great Emu War, I'll cancel this fundraiser so quickly.
More about that. Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you about the War of 212. Emu versus 2 men in a ute.
Like, those people, if you're not familiar with the Great Emu War, it's got nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons. But if you want to have a laugh, check that out.
It's the only war the Aussies lost.
I think we're the only country in the world who officially went to war with a particular species of wildlife, and lost. And I'm proud of that heritage, and I'm glad you're including it in
They're big chickens with lots of feathers and very little body mass. It's not their fault.
Think of it, you can think of it as kind of like a less intimidating ostrich. But yeah, so we started this fundraiser fairly recently, and this is the first time we're sort of talking about it in public. I'm really excited about it. Like we mentioned earlier, when you play tabletop role-playing games, it becomes like a part of your identity, I think. And with yourself, going through your treatment and all that kind of stuff, I sort of thought to myself, like, what is the most meaningful thing, because D&D is such a big part of your identity, that I could do to sort of help out? Because at first I was like, let's raise funds to help you out with your treatment and that kind of stuff. But this, I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm making assumptions here, but this, I feel, is so much more like personal for you.
It is. It's so, for those of you who don't know, the reason why we're doing this is at the end of January I was diagnosed with stage 4 bowel cancer. So I'm going through immunotherapy at the moment, and in the beginning of April they're going to do a scan to check if it's actually shrinking it, and if it isn't, then we've got to look at the next stages. So that's been a bit of a scare in my life, and I told Sven, Crit and Miss, and Mark, and Mod Brewer, and a couple of my other friends, Jason and Fizz, and wow, I am so sorry, your name's completely gone from my... He paints all my minis.
Froth.
Froth. I told Froth about this when I was first diagnosed.
Love you, Froth.
So absolutely love you, Froth. You know I do. I call you out every week. So when Sven came to me with the idea of creating a book, I went, that's amazing, because it just means that what I have in my head and what I've got down on my, this is 30 pages of just lore that I have, I can actually give to other people, so that even if I do end up passing away, which is going to be a very obviously pivotal moment for me, I've told my players, like, if I end up dying, that next Friday, I want my urn to be at the end of the table where the DM would be. So, but if I do end up passing away, it just means that what I have created will live on, and those people who've bought it will be able to just join the world that I created. And that to me is just way beyond, helping me with my treatments or anything like that, because it just allows us to move beyond the concept of what was in my head is now tangible.
Exactly.
And that to me is a beautiful gift.
It is, like I said, it becomes like it's become an integral piece of your identity. So to put that down on paper, and then to allow other people to be able to engage with that part of your identity, I feel almost as if you know, regardless of, you know, how it goes with the treatment, and we all hope that, you know, it goes well, and
Yeah.
you know, we have an amazing community that sort of come together, you know, with our love of tabletop role-playing games. But we all have this sort of sense of camaraderie, and we all want it to go well. But regardless of how that goes, there will forever be a part of your identity out there for other people to experience, to enrich their lives, to sort of pass on those same ideals, those same morals, those same lessons that you have accrued over 22 years of experience. 22 years, people. You know, most people, I haven't had a job for that long. And you've been engaging in this hobby, and you know, enriching the lives of the people around you. This sort of gives us an opportunity, I hope, to grow that circle out exponentially.
Absolutely.
And that's sort of what we're looking to do. We're not looking to earn any money out of this. Anything that is donated is going to go into, we're looking for an editor, a writer, and an illustrator. Loki will be acting as the sort of creative director for this, to, you know, sort of feed that information to these people, because as much as I like to toot my own horn, I'm not that good of a writer, and I'm definitely not a good illustrator. This sort of allows us to put some funding together to bring on some professional help to allow us to create a product that is actually, you know, as pure a translation of what's going on up in here. Because I tell you what, if you haven't watched Renegades, Rogues and Runaways, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, and it deserves to be put down in a way that is sort of lives up to that. You know what I mean? That lives up to the time and the effort and the love that you've poured into creating this thing. So I just want to say right now, if you're watching this back on, you know, social medias or YouTube or wherever this ends up, I haven't really made that decision just yet. Make sure you check out Crit and Miss. We're going to be putting these links all over the place. You'll be able to find it on our Discord, on our Facebook and social medias and all that kind of stuff. And we're only looking to raise, and I just threw this number up just out of my head, we're only looking to raise $2,000. We are hoping to rely a little bit on the goodwill of, you know, some people,
of the community,
the generosity of the community, and the generosity of the people that are going to be, you know, putting their time into helping us make this like a reality. I've never done this sort of thing before. I'm assuming you haven't either, really. No.
Nope.
So this is
not my strong suit.
Our first time for both of us. So we're looking for people who can sort of, you know, resonate with us and sort of help us make this like a reality, so that we can get this published, we can put it up on the DMs Guild, and, you know, share it with the greater community. After all, that is, you know, it's one of the, you know, primary reasons about why I started this channel in the first place. And I'm sure it's the same, you know, why you wanted to stream on the channel. It's like you want to share this with other people. We're not here to make a buck. We're here to enrich the community. Because fuck knows, I haven't made any money off of this.
That's it.
This is basically a part-time job.
Yeah.
But I'm not making any money off it. I can guarantee you that much. We do this for the love of it. We do to give back to a community, to a I don't want to say a hobby. I think that belittles it a little bit, but to give back to something that has, in your instance, you know, brought you back from the brink. Same thing for me. I was going through a period in my life where I felt isolated. I felt I couldn't communicate. I couldn't relate to people. And that's why I got into D&D as well in the first place, is to sort of re-establish that connection with other people, and we want to just give a little bit back. So if you got a couple of dollars burning a hole in your pocket, jump over, donate a couple of dollars, and let's get this ball rolling. All right. So we know why we're here. We know what we're raising money for, at least to some degree. Let's give the people a little bit of an insight. If they haven't watched Renegades, Rogues, or Runaways, if they haven't jumped on your Discord channel, Loki's Lounge on Discord, definitely check it out.
Absolutely.
They don't know about Ungalat. He's getting his folder ready.
My wad of paper, my wad of law.
Your wad of law, yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what we're trying to, get illustrated, is to take all that raw data, put it into something that can be consumed by people, and that's what we're really looking to do here. But let's dive into that a little bit. Let's find out about Ungalat. Let's find out about what the synapses and your grey matter have managed to put together over the course of the preceding 22 years. And let's find out about Ungalat. Basically,
what would you like to know? I have a wealth of knowledge I am happy to pour out.
All right, let's start with the basics. It's high fantasy, right? Absolutely. So, what is it that is the defining feature? What is it that sets it apart from Middle Earth, Forgotten Realms, Dragonlance, Greyhawk? What is that defining feature of Ungalat that really sets it apart?
For me, it is the fact that the gods created the world and then created these beings who were to govern the body. So you had, where are we at here? So they created what was called the Ancients. So the gods created the world, the 12 or 15 gods, I think it is, 15 gods, created the world, and they created every part of it and created elves, dwarves, humans, halflings, gnomes, your basic races. And what they did was they then buggered off. They created an ancient to run each one, and they buggered off. But 3 of the gods stayed behind and left additional gifts that corrupted these ancients. So when the gods rock back up to their planet, to their world, the ancients weren't handed over, and their people have multiplied so much that they're not willing to give it back either. So it breaks out into an all-out war. And at the end of that war is when we start to come into what's happened recently. So it's about 100 years, I think it's about 250 years-ish is when my campaign is based, after this war has decimated the world. And there are so many different things that have happened since then, and to me what really makes it quite interesting is that because there's so much unknown, even my players have no idea about what's happening, and that to me is just beautiful.
Where did this idea, this spark, the spark of Ungalat, let's say the bean that you planted in the recesses of your mind, where did that begin?
Oh, that would have been about 8 years ago. My campaign has one-shots that I ran 5, 6, 7 years ago with my friends. So, and they're integral plot stories to what happened in the world. So every one-shot that I run, if it's based in Ungalat, is actually a story that has happened in the world. The players may or may not know it. The players may or may not be there. So what happens with me, with a lot of it, is that through developing just some of these little battles, some of these little, like, there's a story called the oh dear lord, it's put it in my mind again. The keep of Rimmer on Curly. There's a story about, like, the party. If you've been watching Renegades, Rogues and Runaways, there's a plaque in the town they're in, which is called Wilbur's Wharf, that celebrates the victory of Clarissa and her allies versus the enemy. That was a one-shot that I ran with my group. So I developed these little one-shot storylines, and then I started to develop them into a world. And as the world got bigger and bigger in my own mind, it became a much larger invention. And then, of course, with my studies in ministry, so I did a lot of theology, and I did a lot of, biblical history and things like that, the gods and how they all interacted with the world, and what would happen if they created someone who didn't quite do what they wanted, which is very biblical, happened, and what would then happen from there, and everything else like that. So for me, I built my world out a little differently, because I created the gods first.
Yep.
And then worked my way in, whereas people like Mr. MM would suggest you create a small town first and work your way out. So yeah, just
yes.
depends on where your knowledge base is, I guess. But yeah.
Eminem, yeah, world renowned for his love of tabletop role playing games and Dungeons and Dragons. You can quote me on that. All right, so is that has that been your process from the start? Did you start, like, if I were to have a look at your notes from the beginning to where we are now, like 8 years later on, did you start with that, the very so for us it would be like the Big Bang or whatever it is that you happen to believe in? Did you start with that creation and then create the myth and then sort of create those stories up until the world was created and it becomes populated? Or did you sort of think about where you wanted this world to be and then work backwards from there?
A little bit of both. So I knew what I wanted my gods to do. I knew I wanted some good gods and some bad gods, and I know that I wanted them to create the ancients. But what happened between then and where my players were was all fuzzy.
Okay.
So what I then started to do was work my way back to that creation. So I went, okay, right, well, if the gods created it and the ancients disagreed, what would happen if the gods rocked back up? There would be a war. So the ancients would create an army, the gods would react in kind, then, some of the gods might splinter off and start their own concept because they were the ones that corrupted the ancients in the first place. They see more power there, and then worked my way through from that. Okay, well then what would then happen if this happened? So that's how I get my mythology of Ungalat, and then we end up with the War of the Ancients. And then after that, after the battle and the people have survived and the ancients have been banished, and the gods have locked themselves out with the ancients, the Silver Emperor starts rising as the Dwarven King because he locked himself under in the ground and delved for things, and just greed and things like that built in his mind. Then you have, after them being eliminated, you have the Cerulean Alliance, which is humans just trying to control everything, and then you get to the current world.
Classic
and
humans.
things like that. Yep. Typical human thing, isn't it? Ours. It's pretty, it's mine.
Yeah, no, that's it's been a long process. It sounds very intricate.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thing that, like, because I haven't really spoken to you much about this, so people like watching this like live at home at the moment, the millions of people, you're sort of watching that creative experience sort of unfolding before your very eyes, and you're watching it for free, mind you. So if you want to donate some money to the cause that's down there in the bottom of the corner, is that something that we can sort of expect to have sort of fleshed out in this source book that we're going to create, sort of like this timeline of events that DMs can sort of revert to? Or
Absolutely. And what I'm also looking at doing is writing out what those one shots were, so that we can have those little snippets in there as well. So the battle of Gren's Wharf, Gren's Harbor, is the first one, which is the battle between Wilbur's Wharf and Gren's Harbor and what happened with it. The second one is the Battle of Goldhammer, which is Goldhammer's Keep, which is in Rim Ernon Curly, which is the dwarven citadel down on Astra, the little island down at the bottom of my map. What happened in there is going to be another one. There's another couple of battles I want to write out of this world, things that have just happened in the background. And then, of course, we have my adventurers from my first campaign and all they achieved in the world that no one knows of. I want to be able to add them into it as well as just these like side snippets of things that, okay, well, this is what this group was doing, and this is what this group did, and this is what this other group did, and where our current group is.
And now, like in all the various settings that you have in tabletop role-playing games, everything from Pathfinder to D&D to even Cyberpunk Red, which I run, they all have these like mythical, heroic characters that are intrinsically linked to that particular setting, to that particular world. Is that something that you're looking at doing with these player characters as well, sort of making them these mythical heroes that people hear about?
Yes, so I personally ask Moors, ask Aurora, ask anyone who's ever met so in one of the campaigns I ran a character, basic character, because I love my fighters. I ran a champion fighter, 16 levels champion fighter, 3 levels of barbarian, taking Bear as his spirit guide, and then a level of rogue by the name of Ernan, Ernan, and he scares the living bejesus out of anyone who's ever met him on a battlefield. You guys have seen Ernan in the one shot I played for Sven, where he took on the Green Dragon, and it was basically a standoff. He runs around, he has a Vorpal sword and a long sword, and he just hacks things to bits. He's one of the characters that exists in my world. Obviously, you'll have Petra Durissima, you'll have Hoot Hoot, you'll have what were their other names? Daisy, and you will have Vernon, all of whom were characters from the first campaign I ran, who are now global entities. People know who they are. So things like that will definitely be in there, and there will even be mentioned, probably depending on when the book gets released, if the book gets released, of my current players, because they're currently level 4, but who knows, by then they could be level 10, and therefore they are known. They are people that the world knows to be wary of, or to summon if you need assistance and things like that, because I stick very much to that D&D concept of level 5, they're known in the town and the city. Level 10, they're known on the isle where they are. Level 15, they're known in the globe, and level 20, they're known everywhere. Gods know who they are, and demons know not to mess with them, and things like that. So, there are many other characters that will be very integral people. So yes, Spin Chicken, Dane will be one of them. Juanita will be another. So.
Yeah, no, like there's nothing that is more of a compliment for someone who plays D&D to have their characters immortalized in a way like that. The only I've got one request that I would like to make. If we're gonna get this book published, I'm gonna put a character in there.
Absolutely, perfectly fine.
Yeah.
He can be a bard.
All right. Now we're talking.
He can be the lore keeper of Ethel 4 if you want. Although recently there was an old gentleman who knew most of the lore sitting down on the docks, keeping track of which boats were coming in or out. So I don't know.
You're going to regret that decision, my friends. But you know what they say. Once it's on the internet, it's there forever.
Absolutely.
All right. Anonymia is talking about the first donator. Let's have a quick look. I'll hand the floor over to you for a quick session. Quick second.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, it gets to around about 9 p.m. at night. and my brain forgets how to speak English. It just starts making up words, just sort of like really shoving things in there that don't work at all. So I'm going to hand it over to you for a quick second, Loki.
Sure.
Let's talk about a couple of locations in Ungoliant that people might get to see in this source book that we're going to get made. And tell us about some of the more exciting locations that they might see. And I'm going to bring up some details here.
Sure. So the first one would be Ashran. So Ashran is very much like Aladdin. It's forest on one end, forest on the other end. It goes it arcs up through the middle of the equator. So in the middle there is just a wasteland of desert. And in there you've got Shatar, you've got Nemka, you've got Habrum, you've got all these towns that are striving to find a way to live, to survive. Habrum's the capital and has a sultan who's currently introduced new laws about 30 years ago in regards to the Kenku and the kobolds, because they're seen as lesser citizens. They do the menial tasks. For lack of a better word, they are slaves. And one of the primary objectives of my first group going through and running this was to free the slaves. So you'll see a little bit about what's happening there. You'll also find there's a massive, and I'm talking ginormous, plus-sized turtle. Ancient turtle that's just been frozen in the wastelands. They crawled out of there towards the end of the last campaign that they ran. No one actually knows why it's there because the group didn't tell anyone. They just kind of defeated a boss and went off and did their own things. So there's just this massive dead turtle. So people have got no idea why it's there.
It's one of those things that sort of gets overlooked in playing D&D and tabletop RPGs. Just they sort of leave this trail of bodies behind, and no one actually really talks about what's happened to those bodies.
That's it. It's like, explain. It just appeared one day. Lasted a minute and a half and then died.
That's one of those things that I love to use to troll my players, is to sort of remember the things that they did that they don't really think about, and to bring that back later on, and they'll be like, oh shit, I forgot that was, I didn't even realize that was a thing at the time.
That's it.
Because like when you play computer games, like you leave those dead bodies behind, you move on, and it's like you never think about it again. But when you're playing tabletop RPGs as a DM, I mean, I love to troll my players like that. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. And like one of the big things is the first group that ran through, particularly in Ashran, there's another younger group of heroes who are running through, because they all adopted an orphan and raised them and taught them how to be them. And they weren't the nicest of creatures. They were rather aggressive and killed lots of stuff. So they've got that. There's that to deal with. And then if you head over to the left, there's Ethelfor. Now, Ethelfor is where the group's currently traveling around, but they've only really started in the top part. They've run from a couple of places. Sweet.
Lost Archives, thank you for the raid, you absolute legends of the Critverse. Welcome to the first episode of Critical Conversations. In 2 years, I'm sitting down with my good friend DM Loki from Loki's Lounge. You might recognize him from Renegades Rouges and Runaways that we run every week right here on Twitch. We're talking about a little project that we've been working on together. And when I say we've been working on together, I mean Loki's been doing the work. And I've I don't know what I've been doing really, but Loki's been writing this amazing homebrew world for the better part of 8 years now, and we decided, you know what, it's high time we put the Critverse into action. Let's get this homebrew world published. Let's put it up on the DMs Guild. So we're running a little fundraiser. You know, as we speak, you can find that QR code in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen right there. Speaking of which, Anonymia, thank you so much for being the first person to donate to our fundraiser for Ungoliant. Let's put our hands together for Anonymia. She is also another absolute legend of the Critverse. Thank you so very much. It means the world to me. I can't even imagine what it would mean to Loki to have your support.
That's it. So, yeah. So in Ethelfor, the group's currently traveling around there. You've seen a couple of places, but further down south in Ethelfor, there's a town called Taxila. And Taxila is a pirate's haven. It currently has a pirate queen by the name of Coralyn. She's a dark-haired woman who, with Petra's help from the first campaign, managed to take and capture and gain control from a group called the White Claw, the actual city. So she now rules this coven of pirates and sends them out on missions and everything like that. And if you keep watching R&R, or weeks, if not this week, you may see next to her and things like that. Should be quite good to see. Just thought I'd drop that there for you. So
spoilers.
There are some pretty cool places here as well. There's the islands up the top on top left that no one's ever explored. You've got Quran over on the right. That's where the elves once lived in masses, but they're only just starting to rebuild their numbers. You've got Severus down the base there, which is where Gren's Harbor is. You've got Kthala. You've got a couple of islands at the top that have been semi-explored. And you've got the unknown snowlands down below. So there's a lot of exploration, a lot of space to grow in the world, a lot of places to send your own players even, to go and see and explore and find these new and challenging environments.
Yeah, man, no, absolutely. Like it's so important that when you're creating your own homebrew world like this, especially if it's going to get published, you're planting the seeds. You're giving them the basics. You're giving them inspiration from which to build, but you're leaving these blank spots on the canvas for them to fill in so that they can create their own stories and build upon what you've already created. And I think that is like the exciting part of playing tabletop role-playing games. Is you get to embark on this shared storytelling experience. And we'll go one further. Once this when this gets published, we're gonna link it to the Discord channel. All right, we're gonna put that link up on there for people to follow. And what we want to know, what we want to hear, I'm gonna say this right now. Who knows how long it's gonna take? But I'm gonna say it right now. You're gonna come onto our Discord and you're gonna tell us about what stories you've experienced in Ungoliant, and maybe if we follow up with another source book, who knows? Because I know there's so much material there, all right, that you haven't written down, that there's probably enough material there for like 76 source books. We might even add your stories. I don't want to speak for you, Loki. This is after all your thing, but I know like the most important part of this is like having that shared sort of storytelling experience. And
absolutely. And that's the thing, like I allow other people if they want to play in my universe too, because they just they just keep adding so many things to the universe that I didn't even think of, stuff like that. So it's always great to just invite people in to have a go.
Yeah, and even if it's not included in the source book, just to share those experiences and to share that creativity, because there's a lot of DMs out there like me, who don't like to come up with their own sort of stuff. They just like to steal other people's ideas. So I sort of create these traps for people's ideas so that I can steal them and incorporate them into my own games.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you look at Ungoliant's a culmination of, World of Warcraft. It's a culmination of Lord of the Rings. It's a culmination of so many of the fantasy books and things that I've read, because I'm like, oh, I like that, and I'll take that, and I'll do this, and I'll take this, and that's really cool, thank you. But that's what D&D is. D&D is just a culmination. Like, even Gary Gygax, who created it, he looked at Lord of the Rings and went, I'll take the elves, and I'll take the dwarves, and I'll take the orcs and the goblins, and I'll take the language, and I'll do this. I'll take the hobbits and make them halflings, things like that. So, like, to me, that's all the D&D ever has been, is just taking what's in the world and going, oh, I can use that, and I can use this, and just culminating it together.
All art, at the end of the day, all artists are inspired by something, whether it's conscious or subconscious. What art really is taking those inspirations and immortalizing them in new and exciting ways, for other people to experience in order to take on board, to further their own sort of projects and their own inspiration, and then to keep passing that on, and to diversify and to build and to enrich. And I was actually going to ask you, like, what are some of the inspirations that went into Ungolight? And you've pretty much you've already answered it. It was World of Warcraft, Lord of the Rings, and myself.
Yep. Absolutely.
No, that's.
I mean, I have a bouncer called Sven, so you know.
Ooh.
You're an orc. I'm sorry. That's the Goliath, I think, sir.
Well, I guess the beard kind of hides the jawline a little bit, so I guess I could pass off as an elf. So yeah, no, like I kind of want to reiterate, we're running this fundraiser not to put money in our own pockets, but to build something that I think is like meaningful and long lasting, and is going to go on to sort of inspire other people to hopefully do the same thing, and to pass that on to their players, and to create more. I want to say huge thank you to Ryan for donating to the fundraiser as well. I protect the meats. I hope there's some type of reference there that I'm not catching.
It's from Renegades, Rogues and Runaways. Absolutely, it is.
Okay. All right. And Gemma, thank you, Gemma, for donating.
Thank you.
That already puts us well on the way on, making this a reality, which is exciting. I can't wait to see. And if you're watching this maybe later on socials, YouTube, whatever, if you are an artist, editor, writer, if you've been involved in a project like this before, and it's something that you think that you might want to get involved with, make sure that you get in contact with us any way you can. You can send us a message on social medias, Discord, Twitch, even if that's your jam. I want to jam your ham, as they say on the streets. So yeah, make sure you get in touch, because we'd love to hear from you, and even if it's just give us some advice on how to approach these things. I'd find it extremely fascinating and helpful if you had any advice. We're going to be wrapping it up pretty soon here, but before we do that, let's talk about a little bit more that common thread that sort of brought this community together. Let's talk a little bit about the future of tabletop role-playing games. After all, if we're going to be publishing a book, we are complicit in where this sort of goes. What I'd like to hear from you is your thoughts, your ideas on how you see tabletop role-playing games evolving and continuing to influence others in the future. So what do you predict is going to happen over the next year or two, or maybe even 10?
I think that because the impact computer games in particular have on the player being the focus of the campaign in general, like even Baldur's Gate or anything like that, even in games like Overwatch or Fortnite, things like that, where it's all about the player, I think we're going to find that the game is going to have to adapt towards that inclination. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm a very big fan of the fact that you are a group, and without the group, you will die. I'm very much that mindset. Long live the Marxist in me. But basically, the concept, I think that we're going to find D&D, Star Wars, any TBRG heading is down that path of making it more about a player. We've even seen it with Dungeons and Dragons recently, where they made the one-person one-shots.
Yes.
Where you get companions who can come and join you and help you because you don't have anyone else. You want to be the main focus, the main protagonist. And I think it's going to be great because more and more people are going to become involved in it and developing it. I think that's going to be beautiful. I hope that it keeps at its core the basis on what it was created to be, which is a group of friends sitting around a table having fun. Because that to me is the core of everything. It's just, even me as the DM, my job as the DM isn't to make my players' life hard. My job is to make sure that they have fun in my world. So if they're not having fun, I'm going to change how things happen so that they do. I know, right? Big shock horror, terrible thing of me. How dare I?
I hope none of my players
but it's not me versus them. Yeah. It's not me versus them. It's them finding out about my world and quite unbeknownstly to them stumbling into bad guys or doing something that they thought was good but may not be and things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always been about that sort of cooperative element, and like no one player being the central protagonist or central theme. It's about sharing that with your fellow friends, and no character being able to tackle every single scenario. I mean, that's just the way that the game was built in the first place. But I do see a space for being able to sort of sit down, maybe with your significant other, maybe a random person that you've roped in off the street, and just being able to sit down and play a game without having to worry too much about scheduling conflicts and all that kind of stuff. I think there's a place for that. I'm curious because we've been branching out a little bit into different role-playing games. You know, we did that Star Wars 5e one shot. We did Call of Cthulhu. I've been trying to run Cyberpunk Red for a while now, which it's phenomenal. The first 2 episodes are up on YouTube as well. Quick plug, check it out. They're fucking great. Have you ever played? What I did for you and Mac. But are there any other tabletop RPGs for people who play D&D? I know it can be quite difficult to get exposure to other gaming systems. Are there any other gaming systems out there that you would recommend people check out if they love D&D? Or
if you love D&D, if you really love the role play aspect of D&D, Vampire the Masquerade is amazing, but you play your character, so you are this vampire who is engaging in the world. So, your decisions and all those types of things are decisions you make. I think that's really good if you enjoy the role play, as long as you don't get, overly obsessed with being a vampire, like anything in the fantasy world, right? As long as you don't believe you're actually a mage who's throwing spells at people, it's fine. If you think you're actually a mage who's throwing spells at people, you may need to just dial it back a little bit. So, just stuff like that. But other than that, Star Wars is another good one. It's different, but it's based on an AD&D type roleplay.
Is that the Star Wars 5e, or because I know there's an actual legitimate Star Wars role-playing game now as well that uses the D6.
The Star Wars RPG game itself is pretty good. Because you can run a I'm not a scavenger, like you can be a Jedi or a Sith, or you can be a politician, or you can be a what does she call him? Leia.
A scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Yeah, you can be one of those. You can be a technician. You can be all these different things. So, those types of games are good. If you're more into like rolling dice, Warhammer 40k or Warhammer are both very good dice rolling games. And you get to run little miniature armies across the field to blow stuff up. That's always fun. But yeah, things like that. Like, just don't be scared to try new things. And if you like one game more than others, that's fine. But, just try new things. Like, I remember creating a Warhammer 40k army that was about 50,000 points, which would never ever see the light of day because I could never afford it. but it had everything I wanted in it. So just feel free to stretch out, and most games are based, because D&D was one of the first ever TTRPGs, are based off that. So
absolutely.
I definitely suggest give other games a go for sure. Reach out, try out some of those other games. They are pretty good, pretty much a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I guess what you're trying to say is tabletop role-playing games are kind of like being in the bedroom. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to try new things. Sorry, I couldn't wrap this up without doing one more inappropriate joke.
Absolutely,
I did warn everyone. So, if someone wants to get into D&D, I know this has been traditionally a pretty big hurdle for people in the past, or just tabletop role-playing games in general. It doesn't have to be in D&D. What would be your advice for people who want to step into that?
If you want to step into playing D&D, find someone who will DM you. Ask if you know someone who's a DM. Go walk up to them and go, "I would like to play a game of D&D," and I guarantee you, 99 out of 100 times they're going to go, "Right, you're coming over my house this Saturday. We'll sit down and discuss it." All right, because that's just the way DMs are. You give us the opportunity to run you through a campaign. We're there. It's done. It's on. Let's go. It's who we are as people. We're just that insane. Because we have so much in our heads that we want to get out. But never be afraid to ask, because if you don't understand something, just say, "I don't know." My players, I've played with them for 4 years now, and they still go "What do I do?" I'm like, "Well, these are your options," or "This is what you could do," or "You could do this," or "This is what's now happening." So always look for a DM, because DMs are out there. They just sometimes are a little scared because they don't know how to introduce themselves to people, because like most nerds, they're introverts. They're probably very shy, and they sit in a corner a lot, probably with a book.
Yeah. I've done my fair share of corner sitting.
Absolutely, we're the wall supports.
That's what the corners are for. If no one else is going to occupy that corner, I'm going to be sitting in it. I'm going to be sitting in it with my 700-page source book. I'm going to be reading stuff that I'm going to forget the next day.
They're going to have the family dog or cat near them as well, because they're just, "This is my friend now."
How else do you make friends? I don't know.
Friend, wife, instinct.
I was just going to say, if you are going to yeah, that's right. If you are going to talk, if you're going to approach random people on the street, you're going to ask them to play. Make sure, don't forget the second D dragons. If you just walk up to someone and ask them, "I want to play dungeons," you're going to get some weird looks.
I'm a dungeon master.
Exactly. Don't lead with that. Give context. Because you're going to end up in the wrong circles, or the right circles.
You like playing with little men and being whipped? I'm a dungeon master.
You do, man. If that's what you want to do, you might find something that you're actually really into, and I'm all for it. And it takes all sorts, and we welcome you into the Critverse, because after all, this is an inclusive community. We love you all, and we appreciate you coming and hanging out with us.
Absolutely.
We are probably going to have to bring it to a close pretty soon. I love Gemma sitting in the room and she's listening to the stream, but it's about 7 seconds behind. So every time I say an inappropriate joke, she laughs about 7 seconds later, and the anticipation is too much for me. But it's great. Yeah. So. Any closing statements? Anything that you'd like, the Critverse to know, and the people at home, and the people on social medias before we wrap it up?
Absolutely. One of the questions you were going to ask me that we didn't get around tonight is: are there any memorable moments that I've had as a DM, as a player, or as the DM? I have so many. So going way back when I was 24, in Bundaberg, around a table with 8 other players, a red dragon landed. There's my fighting out my dwarven fighter and the half orc at the time, the half orc barbarian. Dragon lands in front of us and goes, "Why did you?" We previously, the two of us had previously killed a pseudo dragon. So it lands in front of us. "Why did you kill my baby?" And the first thing my character did, the DM goes, "Roll for You check against its fear. Rolled a natural 20. So why did you kill my baby? It was in our way. Well, I'm going to eat you now. And the first thing my fighter does is go, the elf thinks he's a god. Now, to a red dragon, that's straight up, I'm going to go kill the elf. So he takes off, flies off, picks up the elf, and takes off into the distance. My fighter's happy, he survived. But the player who was running the elf wasn't too happy. He got to go bye-bye. Another one was during my first... So there's obviously Ernan. Ernan is an amazing character. So they had a big meeting in the campaign I was running him in. Massive meeting between all these heads of state. And in the morning, he decides he's going to get up. Halfling fighter, 3'4", stocky little lad, walks outside. It snowed all night, so he makes a snowball and lobs it at a child's head. The child starts crying, so he just goes, "Why are you crying? Turn around, pick one up, and throw it back at me." So the kid does it, and he starts an all-out snowball fight in the middle of the street in this town, and just wanders back on inside, sits down, orders an ale. Just little things like that, to me, just make the characters so much more realistic. The third one, talking about really questionable moments. In my first campaign I ran with the group that I'm currently playing with, one of the party members, by the name of Tamari, walked into a bowyer and leather maker's shop and requested a harness for a shorter humanoid character. Now, the person owning this shop just so happens to be a Deglinter, for those of you who know who he is. Bisexual, has a wife and a husband at home with 4 kids. So when he heard a harness, he made a harness. So when they walk back into the shop, he pulls out a harness for them, which involves the chest harness and a ball gag. They've kept the ball gag. They go off with this. However, Tamari dies about 15 weeks later, and they send the ball gag home with him to his father. There we go.
Yep.
So dad gets his son and a ball gag.
And a ball gag. The hell? And left to ponder the rest of their existence, wondering why they have the body of their child in a ball gag. Yeah, it's you can't. I was going to say you can't make this stuff up, but obviously you did make this stuff up. But you it's the kind of thing you can only experience it right here on. Creating Mist, tabletop role-playing games. There's nothing else like it. I'm gonna make a quick observation right now. Just watching you and listening to you tell these stories about your experiences in tabletop role-playing games. There's even through a monitor. Even through a TV screen, I can see there's a sparkle in your eyes. There's a passion in the way that you describe these things, as if, like you said earlier, they are real events, because after all, reality is subjective. These kinds of things, as bizarre as they are our subjective reality. We know it's not real. We know it's all a creation of our imagination. We're not mental, but in a way they are just as real to us, and I can see that in the way that you describe these events, and that is what makes you such a phenomenal dungeon master. Such an experienced, such a source of experience in D&D, and someone that I think a lot of people in the Critverse look up to. I think a lot of people in the tabletop role-playing game sort of community should look up to, if they're not already. So once again, if you haven't already done so, make sure you follow DM Loki on social medias at Loki's Lounge. Pretty sure they can find you on Instagram, TikTok.
Yep. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And then
YouTube.
also, I have a Discord channel as well, which is just Loki's Lounge _
Loki's Lounge _ I'm gonna drop those links in the chat right now for the people watching this on Twitch. If you're watching this on social media, you might not get that. If you don't, just, you know, I mean, you guys know how social medias work probably better than I do. So check it out. Give them a follow. Give them a like. Comment on the videos. These things go a huge way towards beating the algorithms, helping passionate people like DM Loki, and to a lesser extent myself, to beat the algorithm, build a community. We've already built an amazing community of phenomenally talented people.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, Frost Minis, Fizz, Mark, Ali, Grace, Gem, just so many mods. Aaron
Jason,
from Valiant
right.
Odyssey. Make sure you check out the Valiant Odyssey wherever you find podcasts as well. Just so many. Too many more that I can mention. Christian from Hemi's D&D services, of course, he's in the chat as well. I think, I'm not sure. Anyway, make sure you check them all out. Join our Discord. Join Loki's Lounge on Discord and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I did say Christian. Yeah, I think we're gonna call it a night.
Absolutely. And also, if you go and watch the videos, enjoy the second one where I'm literally in hospital doing a show, because I'm that much of a sucker.
Because that is dedication to your craft, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, everybody. We love you very much. May all your 20s be natural, be excellent to each other. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Good night.
Will do. See you Friday night, 7, right here. Bye, guys.
Good night.